Welcome to the Real AWS console. Here's the problem every beginner hits. There are over 200 services in here and no map, so it's overwhelming. Let's fix that. I'll walk the console, then introduce the services a Real team uses day to day, and for each one I'll tell you the problem it solves, the service that fixes it, and a real example, all in plain English. First, the map. This top bar is home base. The AWS logo always takes you home, so you can't get lost. The search box jumps to any service, just type its name. The middle shows recently used, and the top right holds your region, alerts, and account. Master this one bar, and the console stops being scary. First, regions, in the top right. The problem, your users are spread around the world, and a server far away feels slow. A region is simply which city's data centers your stuff runs in, so you pick the one closest to your users. Serving India? Use Mumbai. Here's the classic trap. Build something in Mumbai, switch the region to London, and it looks gone. It's not, you're just looking at a different city. And a few services, like IAM, are global, shown as global instead of a city. Next, the problem of access, who is allowed to do what. Hand everyone the master password and one mistake wipes everything. The fix is IAM, Identity and Access Management, the security desk and ID badges of your AWS building. You lock away the all-powerful root user, create IAM users for your team, turn on MFA, and give each person only the permissions they need. Real example, your intern gets read-only access, your lead gets more, and nobody holds the master key. There's a full IAM deep dive coming. The problem that scares everyone, a surprise bill. The fix is the billing and cost management screen, plus the free tier, the set of things AWS gives you free for a year. Mine reads 0 because I stay on free tier. Real habit, check the free tier usage page so you know what's still free, and set a billing alarm that emails you the moment you cross, say, $5. Do that on day 1, and you'll never get a shock. Now the services. The problem, you need a computer to run your app, but buying and maintaining physical servers is slow and expensive. The fix is EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud, a computer you rent by the hour called an instance. It's like renting an apartment instead of buying a whole house. Real example, hosting your website's backend. This dashboard is mission control for those rented machines. Here's launching one for real. You pick an operating system, Linux, Ubuntu, even Windows, and the size, from a tiny free tier machine up to GPU monsters for AI. See that free tier eligible label? That's your learning box. Click launch, and in about a minute you have a real server live on the internet. The problem it kills, waiting weeks for someone to rack a physical server, now it's 60 seconds. The problem, your app has files, photos, videos, backups, and a normal server disk fills up and can die with the server. The fix is S3, simple storage service, basically Google Drive built for apps, with practically unlimited, extremely durable storage in containers called buckets. Real example, every product image on a store, every user upload, every nightly backup lives in S3. This is the buckets page. Creating a bucket is just a name, a region, and safety switches, like versioning, which keeps old copies if a file gets overwritten. The comparison people always ask, S3 versus EBS. EBS is a hard drive attached to one single server, private and fast, but only for that machine. S3 is shared storage any service can reach. Rule of thumb, media, and backups go in S3. A server's own disk is EBS. The problem, if everything sat open on the public internet, anyone could poke your database. The fix is VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, your own private gated network inside AWS, where you choose what faces the internet and what stays locked in the back. Real example, your web server is public, but your database hides in a private subnet that only the web server can reach. AWS gives you a default VPC, so you start instantly. The problem, databases are critical, but a pain to run, backups, patching, crashes at 2 a.m. The fix is RDS, the Relational Database Service, a managed SQL database where AWS handles all of that for you. It's a filing cabinet of strict rows and columns with staff maintaining it. Real example, the orders, users, and payments behind a store, data that must stay consistent, lives here. On the Create screen, you pick the engine, MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, Oracle, SQL Server, or Amazon's Fast Aurora. The comparison everyone needs, RDS versus DynamoDB. Use RDS when your data is related and you ask complex questions like a bank letter. Use DynamoDB when you need huge scale and speed more than strict structure. Structured and related, RDS. Massive and fast, DynamoDB. The problem, some data gets hit millions of times a second, and a normal database buckles. The fix is DynamoDB, a fully managed NoSQL database built for enormous scale and millisecond speed with no servers to manage. It's like a coat check that finds any one ticket among 100 million instantly. Real example, a shopping cart, user sessions, or a game leaderboard with millions of players. The problem, keeping a whole server running just to do a tiny task now and then, is wasteful. The fix is Lambda, run your code with no server at all. It's a vending machine for code, it sits there costing nothing, an event presses the button, it runs, then sleeps again. You pay only for those seconds. Real example, a user uploads a photo, and a Lambda instantly creates a thumbnail. Here you literally paste your code in the browser and it's live. The comparison to lock in, EC2 versus Lambda. EC2 is always on, great for a busy, constant workload like a website. Lambda only wakes when triggered, great for short, occasional tasks. Always on and predictable, that's EC2. Quick, event-driven bursts, that's Lambda. The problem, how do you know your app is sick before your customers do? The fix is CloudWatch, the eyes and ears of your account, metrics, logs, and alarms. It's the security cameras plus the smoke alarm. Real example, it's 3 a.m. CPU spikes or the site stops responding, and CloudWatch texts you instead of you hearing it from an angry customer. This is its dashboard. The problem, computers find each other by numbers, but nobody remembers an IP address. The fix is Route 53, AWS's DNS service, the phone book of the internet that turns your store.com into your server's real address. Real example, you buy a domain right here and point it at your app in 2 clicks. This is the hosted zones area where that routing lives. The problem, one server can't serve the whole planet fast, someone is always far away. The fix is CloudFront, a global content delivery network that keeps copies of your content in local branches worldwide, so each user is served from the nearest one. Real example, it's exactly how streaming apps start playing the instant you hit play, the video is already nearby. Now the DevOps toolkit. The problem, one server gets overwhelmed by traffic, and if it dies, your whole site goes down. The fix is the elastic load balancer. It sits in front of several servers and spreads incoming traffic across them, quietly skipping any that are unhealthy. Real example, at a flash sale, the load balancer shares the flood so no single server tips over. The problem, traffic isn't steady, quiet at night, huge at lunch, so you either overpay for idle servers or crash under a spike. The fix is autoscaling. It automatically adds servers when demand rises and removes them when it falls. Real example, Black Friday hits, autoscaling spins up extra servers, then scales back down at midnight so you stop paying. With the load balancer, this is how big sites stay up. Modern apps ship in containers, neat boxes holding your app and everything it needs to run. The problem, where do you keep those container images? The fix is ECR, the Elastic Container Registry, your private secure shelf for them. Real example, your pipeline builds an image and pushes it to ECR, ready to run anywhere. Think of it as a private app store for your containers. The problem, running one container is easy, but running dozens across servers, restarting crashes, scaling them up and down is hard. The fix is ECS, the Elastic Container Service, Amazon's simple way to run and manage containers, and with Fargate you don't manage any servers at all. Real example, package your app once, and ECS keeps the right number of copies running behind a load balancer. There's a full containers deep dive on the channel. The problem, many teams have standardized on Kubernetes, the industry standard way to run containers, but operating it yourself is heavy. The fix is EKS, the Elastic Kubernetes Service, managed Kubernetes where AWS runs the hard part for you. Real example, your team already knows Kubernetes, or you need to run across multiple clouds, so you reach for EKS. Simple and AWS. Native is ECS, Simple and AWS. Now the heart of DevOps, CI/CD. The problem, manually building and deploying every code change, is slow and error-prone. The fix is CodePipeline. It automates the whole flow. So the moment you push code, it builds, tests, and deploys automatically. Real example, a developer merges a fix, and minutes later it's live in production with nobody touching a server. This is the assembly line for your software. Inside that pipeline, the problem of compiling your code and running your tests is handled by CodeBuild. It spins up a clean environment, builds your app, runs the tests, packages it, then shuts down. Real example, every pull request gets automatically built and tested, so broken code is caught before it ever ships, and you only pay for the build minutes you use. The next problem, pushing a new version to live servers without taking the site down or breaking it. The fix is CodeDeploy. It rolls out your new version gradually and can automatically roll back if something goes wrong. Real example, a bad release starts throwing errors, and CodeDeploy reverts to the last good version before most users even notice. Safe, automated releases. The problem, building all of this by clicking in the console, is slow, and almost impossible to repeat exactly. The fix is CloudFormation, infrastructure as code. You describe your entire setup in one text file, and AWS builds it all for you. Real example, spin up an identical copy of your whole environment for testing in minutes, then tear it down just as fast. Your infrastructure becomes a repeatable blueprint. The problem, once you have dozens of servers, logging into each one to patch it or run a command is a nightmare. The fix is Systems Manager, SSM. It lets you patch, run commands, and store settings across all your servers from one place without even opening SSH. Real example, apply a security patch to 100 machines at once and keep config values safely in parameter store. It's the Swiss Army knife of AWS operations. The problem: developers hardcode database passwords and API keys straight into the code, a huge security hole. The fix is Secrets Manager. It stores those secrets safely encrypted and can even rotate them automatically. Real example, your app fetches the database password from Secrets Manager at runtime, so it's never written into the code or the repo. Never paste a password into your project again. The problem: you need to encrypt sensitive data, but managing encryption keys yourself is hard and risky. The fix is KMS, the key management service. It creates and guards the encryption keys, and almost every AWS service plugs into it with a single checkbox. Real example, tick encrypts on an S3 bucket or a database, and KMS quietly handles the keys behind the scenes. The problem: something changed in your account, who did it and when. Without record, you're blind. The fix is CloudTrail. It logs every single action taken in your account by every user and service. Real example, a resource gets deleted and CloudTrail shows exactly which user did it and at what time. It's the security camera footage for your whole account, essential for audits and investigations. The problem: when something happens, you often need to tell several systems or people at once. The fix is SNS, the simple notification service. You publish one message and it instantly pushes a copy to every subscriber, email, text message, or other services. Real example, an order is placed, and SNS fires the confirmation, email, the SMS, and a record to analytics all at once. There's a messaging deep dive on the channel. The problem: a sudden flood of work can crash the service trying to handle it. The fix is SQS, the simple queue service, a durable line that holds messages until your workers can pull them at their own pace. Real example, 10,000 orders arrive at once. They wait safely in the queue and get processed steadily instead of crashing checkout. SNS to broadcast, SQS to buffer, often used together. The problem: your mobile app and website need a secure, scalable front door to reach your backend. The fix is API Gateway. It sits in front of your code and handles requests, security, throttling, and routing. Real example, your phone app calls one tidy API address, and API Gateway routes it to the right Lambda or server behind the scenes. It's the reception desk for your backend. The problem: every app needs sign up and login, and building that securely yourself is hard and dangerous. The fix is Cognito. It handles user sign up, login, and even sign in with Google or Apple for you. Real example, instead of storing passwords yourself, Cognito manages your users in a user pool and hands your app a secure token. Authentication solved. The problem: you want AI features, a chatbot, summaries, recommendations, but training models needs deep expertise. The fix is Bedrock. It gives you ready-made foundation models through one API with no machine learning team required. Real example, add a support chatbot or auto-generate product descriptions with a single API call. There's a full Bedrock deep dive on the channel. The problem: you've got piles of logs and data sitting in S3. How do you actually analyze it? The fix is Athena. It lets you run ordinary SQL queries directly on the files in S3 with no database to set up, and you pay only per query. Real example, ask how many orders came from each city last month straight against your raw data. Pair it with Redshift when you need a full data warehouse. That's the real AWS toolkit. Picture it as one live app. Route 53 finds your domain. CloudFront serves it fast. A load balancer spreads traffic to EC2 servers that autoscaling grows and shrinks, or to containers on ECS and EKS, from images in ECR. Lambda handles quick tasks. API Gateway is the front door, and Cognito logs your users in. Data lives in RDS, DynamoDB, and S3, secrets in Secrets Manager, keys in KMS. CodePipeline builds and ships it all. CloudFormation defines it as code. Systems Manager runs the fleet, while CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and Billing keep you watching, audited, and on budget, all inside your private VPC and guarded by IAM. That's AWS, not 200